Hello. Hello, Zach. Hello. It is Zach McReynolds here of the Cherrie Brown and Zach McReynolds team at NextHome Real Estate Rockstars in Valencia, California. It's crazy times. We're still in the middle of the global pandemic. The Santa Cruz market is still moving quickly. We are in low inventory. We were in low inventory prior to COVID, and it has stayed in low inventory. Then rates got lower, and that picked up the buyer pool. So, low rates, lots of buyers, low inventory is a formula for a seller's market. So, the average days on the market in Santa Cruz is still around 28. So even for a low inventory market, it's still taking good marketing to move properties efficiently and for top dollar. But what's happening is there's a lot of multiple offer situations out there, and it's making it difficult for buyers. I mean, we're having listings that get 6, 9, 12 offers. So, excuse me, think about that buyer pool, and if 8 people wrote an offer, well, only one obviously gets the property. So then 7 people scurry off to go find another property, and you're just getting this kind of feeding frenzy on the good turnkey sellable properties. So when we're representing buyers, it is very competitive out there, and what advantages can we gain when we write an offer with a buyer? So kind of put together this list here. It's not the end all be all list. I may have certainly missed something, but these are some of the strategies that we use and utilize when we are writing offers and trying to get offers accepted for our buyers. The goal at the end of the day, when we're writing an offer for a buyer, the goal is, how do we write an offer that does not get a counter? If we can write an offer that we could present to the listing agent that makes their job easier to just sign off on that offer, then we've really done our job. Because if we leave anything in there that the seller needs to counter, you're just opening the door not only to get a counter. If they're going to counter like a small term in there, then they certainly might counter the price that you offered, and now try to get you to go up another 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever have it be. So if we write an offer that they can sign off on, then that's the best way to get your offer accepted, especially if there's going to be multiple offers. Not all offers are built the same. Not all agents are built the same. So, it's putting your best foot forward out the gate. Things like, the seller typically chooses services. They get to select the escrow company, the title company, right? So sometimes when you're a buyer and you have a buyer's agent, they're representing you. Sometimes that buyer's agent will try to slip in their escrow company or their title company. And if you do that, you really are opening the door again for the listing agent or the seller to counter you. And if they're going to counter those things out, because they're going to counter them out, then they might again counter you on price. But even worst case, what if now you had an offer that they would have just signed off on, and there's 3 other offers over here that weren't as good, and they weren't even going to deal with those. But now that they're countering that silly little thing in the contract that you wrote, now they're lumping you into a multiple offer with these other with all, now you're up against all of them when they could have possibly signed off on your offer. So these are all the things that we'd like to think about when we're submitting an offer and when we're writing an offer. And then, like I said, I've put together a list of 10 things that to be thought about. It's not like you have to do all 10 of these every time you write an offer, but they're things to think about when you're writing an offer, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation. Now, that being said, hopefully the agent that you've hired, has some sort of standing within the community or a good reputation, because sometimes having that, those open the door for us to get the information that we need from the listing agent as far as what the seller is looking for. So let's keep that in mind. And then why don't we go down some of these? They're not really in a particular order. So here we go. When submitting an offer, you always need to submit your offer with a pre-approval letter from a lender, as well as your proof of funds for whatever you're putting down that shows that you have the actual down payment and your closing costs that you need to buy the home. And oftentimes a lot of listing agents and sellers are looking for also a copy of your FICO score to be submitted. Now, something to keep in mind here is having a pre-approval from an actual reputable lender. Not all lenders are built the same, just like not all agents are built the same. So what if you have a pre-approval from a company that's known, with a bad reputation, or they're known for not doing a thorough vetting process on the buyer to make sure that they are fully qualified for the property. So you want to keep that in mind, and having a good in wherever you live, but in Santa Clarita specifically, we're kind of in our own little bubble. So having a pre-approval from a good, known, trusted local lender goes a long way. When you're submitting that offer, that pre-approval is gold, because the listing agent on the other side knows who that lender is, and know that they vetted you properly through their process. If you have DU approval, that means that they submitted you through desktop underwriting, meaning that they've already double checked the whole file all the way through and know that it's sellable to Fannie Mae. So you're essentially approved. You just got to get through the actual process, of the appraisal and all the other stuff. But sometimes on a pre-approval, and I've seen this from some of the big banks, I won't name anybody, but we'll get a pre-approval and we'll say this approval is based on getting W-2s and tax returns from the buyer, meaning in theory you're approved, but they need to get all of your paperwork before that you're finally approved. So that pre-approval doesn't carry nearly as much weight as somebody who's got all your paperwork, and that's why you have to turn this in. Sometimes people are like, well, they want all this information, or I don't want them to run my credit. Well, you do want them to do that, because you want to be fully approved. So when you're submitting that offer, you can stand out from the people who aren't fully approved. I feel like I kind of ranted on that, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the things I'm talking about, you can feel free to message me wherever you're seeing this video, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. And you can call me directly, text me, whatever you want. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So next, this is a good one. So, traditionally an escrow period is 30 days. 45 isn't uncommon. 45 is typically, was out there for more like FHA loan programs and stuff, but many FHA programs are now closing in 30. So 30 is very common. Now, what would be cool is, what if your lender can close in 21 days? Or faster, 17 days. Obviously, again, having a good reputable lender that can do that. And then when you submit your offer, because what if that seller wants to go buy something? The faster they close, the faster they can be non-contingent to make their upstream, as we call it, purchase. So it's something to think about, but closing faster isn't always what the seller needs. But again, this is why your agent having a good reputation with the other agents in the community, they might be able to get this intel. Hey, what is your seller trying to accomplish? Are they moving out of state? Are they moving on a certain day? Blah, 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 blah. So it really just depends. But oftentimes being able to close faster than 30, like a 21 day, it's all about strengthening your offer. What's the strongest possible offer that you could submit to, again, get signed off and not get a counter? Typically closing faster is a strength. The opposite of that would be if we knew that they wanted time, or they certainly are purchasing something. It's hard in this market to be contingent. So if they are trying to purchase something, then what if you offer the seller a rent back? You close in 21 days. What if you then give them a 9 or 10 day, that's, bringing it back up to that 30-day time period, and, maybe you offer it for free. Your first payment isn't going to start for well over 30 days. So you could close in 21, give them 9-day free rent back, which gives them time to then close on their next purchase, or at least identify that purchase for them. Now they're non-contingent, or something to this effect. Obviously not even necessarily doing it for free, but giving them a rent back opportunity that affords the seller the opportunity to close and now be non-contingent if they are looking for a property, because that seller's going to have the same problem. They might be up against other offers. So them trying to write an offer contingent is going to be tough, but if they've already closed on their property, they've received the funds, they're not contingent anymore, and it makes them stronger going forward. We'll get back to the contingency for, you, the buyer here, but, putting your best foot forward, just period, up front. Some people just need to negotiate. Let's say you're looking at a property that, is $699 here in Santa Clarita, and you're interested in it. We're in a very tight market, and you tell your agent that you want to write an offer for $685. Well, it's very likely that they already have other offers, or B, are expecting other offers, or C, they've had so many showings on this property that they're not going to consider a 15,000 under asking offer if it's the first day or two on the market. And that's actually a good thing I didn't bring up on here, but jumping on a property the day it comes on the market. If something pops up on a Tuesday, go look at it on Tuesday night. Don't wait till Saturday. By Saturday, they might have multiple offers and you're shooting yourself in the foot there. But certainly not trying to over negotiate. People love to try to negotiate, and their mindset is, well, they'll just counter me. Well, what if they don't? If you set that offer for 685 and they get 3 other offers at or around their asking price, you may not even get a counter offer. They're not required to counter you. If they get 4 offers, you're the lowest one. Sometimes you're just eliminated. You don't even get wrapped up in the counter because the seller doesn't look at it like you're serious. If 3 other people wrote an asking price, they might counter those 3 and see who's willing to do what versus even including you in that counter offer. So over negotiating, not asking for closing costs. We are not in a market where a buyer is likely to get closing costs. You might as well just eliminate that from your thought process right now. Now, the average days on the market in Santa Clarita right now is 28. So if something's on the market for 40, 50, 60 days, which, if it is, it probably has other issues going on right now. But that obviously means at the very least that it's not priced correctly. So getting closing costs on something like that might be an option. But just because it's there also doesn't mean the seller's willing to do that. The seller might unfortunately just be unrealistic about the price that they want for the home and not willing to budge. But in a market with this, we don't even have 1 month of inventory in Santa Clarita. So the idea of getting closing costs just shouldn't even be a thought process right now, unfortunately. Next, let's get rid of this other thing. So this, back to talking about contingent, let's assume you, the buyer, you're contingent, you have a property to sell, or you need to sell that property in order to purchase. If you currently own a home and you're thinking about selling and upgrading or getting bigger or downsizing, whatever the case may be, if you fall in love with a house today that you're absolutely in love with, that you will, if this is the home of your dreams, and if you don't get it, you're going to be devastated. If you have a property to sell and you haven't already put that house on the market, you're in a really tough spot. Because again, if you write an offer on this property, it's safe to assume if it's your dream home, it's probably other people's dream homes as well, and that it's going to have multiple offers. If you haven't even listed your home, but you need to sell it in order to purchase, you're really behind the gun because you're not a valid offer until you have that buyer in place on your own property. So even if you wrote an offer, technically you're not a real offer until you secure the buyer. So let's pretend we're not in a market where things are moving so quickly or have so many offers, which is kind of the case we were, last year, a little over a year ago. Even in that case, if you wrote the offer and you haven't listed your home yet, the seller's just going to say, well, hey, good, get your house on the market and get your buyer and then come back. So you're not valid until you have that buyer secured. So you've got to get your house on the market no matter what. It seems incredibly counterintuitive to put your house on the market without knowing where you're going to go, but you got to put your house on the market, secure a buyer, so now you can go write an offer. And then there's other options right now, and this is why having a good lender is so important, because there are options called bridge loans where, if you have a certain amount of equity in your current home, you can get a bridge loan to then make that next purchase where you're purchasing non-contingent, which is, in this market, a strong consideration. Now we are getting contingent offers accepted. So again, this goes back to relationships and knowing some of the other agents in town and being able to figure that out or negotiate that, or that listing agent's trust in not only the agent representing you, but your lender and getting the job done. All these things kind of, stack on top of each other like onion layers. But that's a tough thing. So again, this is very strategic. If you do have a home to sell, I would strongly advise you to start a conversation with a realtor sooner versus later. You've got to have a game plan for this. Next. Earnest money deposit, your deposit when you write an offer on a property. This is different from your down payment. If you're putting a down payment, let's say, again, that $699,000, $700,000 hypothetical we were talking about earlier, if you're putting 20% down, that's 140,000 that you need to put down on that. Your earnest money deposit, it's typical for that to be 2 to 3% here in Santa Clarita. I would strongly advise you just 3% every time you write an offer. It's showing strength. Even if you put 2% down, if you had a problem with the seller and there was a dispute resolution or you went through mediation, they can technically go after you for up to 3% anyway. So you should show strength by putting the full deposit amount down and go ahead and put that 3% offer in. Again, imagine there's 3 other offers. If you're the only one that put 3%, and we've had offers where people write $1,000 for deposit. Well, if 2 to 3% is considered, standard, putting $1,000 just shows some sort of lack of strength. It shows weakness. Like you may not have any money, or you don't have any skin in the game, at least to put it on. And sometimes what buyers are doing right now, they're writing offers on multiple properties, which is kind of a no-no in the industry. And if you're only offering $1,000, that might be a sign that you're writing offers on a bunch of other things. So a seller might not want to take that offer from you, knowing that maybe you wrote on other properties. Because what if you get your offer accepted? Which house did you really want? If you wrote on 3 or 4 properties, and what if all of them you got your offer accepted? Well, you're going to have to back out of the other 3. So it's all about, again, strength of offer and showing that strength and that dedication to the property, which I think makes sense. So this is shortening your inspection. Actually, this should have read shortened contingency period. So you as the buyer, you have these contingencies in place to protect that deposit money that we're talking about. You put 3% down. You then have a 17-day inspection period, a 17-day appraisal period, and then typically you have a 21-day loan contingency period. And there's some other contingencies in there, like being able to review HOA documents and some other things. But these are your 3 primaries. Now, so that means you have 17 days to complete and negotiate any repairs from the inspection. So what's pretty common right now to show strength of offer, instead of leaving that the boilerplate 17 days, why don't we shorten that inspection period down to 7, or possibly sooner. 7's realistic because the day you open escrow, you've got to be able to hire an inspector that can be there within the first few days. But most deals fall apart from the inspection, the home inspection, right? You get a home inspector, they come out, they find some things wrong with the property. You ask the seller to fix them. It is a negotiation. It's not guaranteed that they have to. They might have, if you did get wrapped up in a counter, they might have actually countered that you're taking an as-is condition in anyways. So you might have agreed to take it in as-is condition, but find out that there's a whole bunch of things wrong with the house that you weren't expecting. Obviously, there's going to be normal wear and tear items, but if you find out that there's some safety concerns, or what if the AC just flat out doesn't work, or blah, 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 the attic truss is breaking, or the foundation, has some issues. These are things that you could still bring to the seller's attention. But if you ask them to fix these things and they didn't want to do it, and they say, no, we're not doing it, then that's a reason you can back out of the contract and not jeopardize your deposit, because you have that contingency in place, including obviously the appraisal, and then that loan contingency. Now, again, having a good known local trusted lender, you can shorten all these periods. You can shorten inspection from your standard 17 down to 7. Maybe you can shorten the appraisal from 17 down to 12. If you get anything under that, you're running the risk of not being able to complete the task within that contingency period. Like I said, a good lender from the 21-day loan contingency, maybe you can shorten that down to 17. And again, that's showing strength to the listing agent and the seller that, hey, we're serious about this property and we're willing to shorten all these timelines down. Now, you got to be able to hit your timeline, because you don't want to get to day 17 of your and need your loan contingency removed, and you have a lender that isn't prepared to give you the A-OK that you are fully approved for that loan. If you can't remove it in time, then you run the risk of the seller issuing you a notice to perform. And if you don't perform, meaning removing that contingency in time, they can then kick you out of the transaction. So again, it's not just saying it, it's being able to do it and having a good lender that can withhold those shortened time periods, because it's not easy to be able to get full loan approval in 17 days. But again, these are things that strengthen your offer when you're submitting an offer. And again, let's pretend there's 3 other offers on the property. It's how do you put your best foot forward and go, me, take me. Don't counter these other 3 offers. Please take my offer. We want this property. We actually wrote an offer the other day. We had a contingent buyer, meaning she has to sell her home. She is in escrow. We wrote an offer on a property that had 8 other offers, and we did not get a counter, and they accepted our offer. So we were able to beat out, I think we were the 8th. So we beat out 7 other offers with a contingent offer by utilizing some of these strategies to strengthen our offer, put our best foot forward, and we got our offer accepted right off the bat. Moving on. Now this would be waiving some contingencies, not just shortening. Now this gets a little scary. You wouldn't want to waive an appraisal. You would not want to waive an inspection contingency. You would want to still do a home inspection. And it'd be hard for me to advise any buyer to do that. We've had buyers approach us saying that they saw this online. It's a good method, but you want to do a home inspection. So it's hard for me to advise doing that. But what you can do, especially let's say you write an offer and you go 20,000 over, the seller might be expecting you to waive that appraisal contingency, meaning if it doesn't appraise, you're agreeing to purchase this for the price that you sent your offer for. And sometimes that would require you coming out of pocket with additional money. So again, let's take the $700,000 hypothetical. Let's say you're putting 20% down. So you're planning on putting $140,000 down. You have some closing costs in there. Let's assume they're 2%, which is another $14,000. So you've got to have $154,000 to put down and have your closing costs. Now, if you went over 20,000, so you offered them 720,000, but you waived your appraisal. If it only appraises for 7, you've got to put that 20,000 out of pocket, and then you're still going to need that same 154. So it is kind of, you're burning that 20 grand. But here's what's really cool: you can talk to your lender, and in some cases, the lender does not need to actually order the appraisal. So you could waive an appraisal if the lender can do a property inspection waiver. Meaning they don't even have to order an appraisal, and then one didn't have to be completed. So then technically it didn't matter what it appraised for. So that's something to talk to your lender about, or if you have any questions about that, let me know. But again, these are some options, and this is happening right now. We are getting, on a lot of our listings, we're getting well over asking. Just in the last couple of weeks, we've had one thing went 55,000 over. We had another property that went 35,000 over. So in both of these cases, for us, the listing agent, we have to identify, I don't think that's going to appraise. Just throwing an offer as the buyer at them, trying to go 50,000 over and then secretly going like, oh, I know it's not going to appraise, so we'll renegotiate the price. Well, most listing agents are going to require you to waive this appraisal in that case, because we all know it's not going to appraise. So you better be prepared to pay that above appraised value if it were to not appraise. This is a nice one. As the buyer, you're asking the seller. The buyer pays their closing costs. The seller pays their closing costs. It's typical for a buyer to ask the seller to buy them a 1-year home warranty. What if you didn't ask them to buy that? You could still purchase your own home warranty. It's typically $400 to $500 depending on the home and whether or not it has a pool or whatever. It can definitely be higher with a pool, but you can get your own home warranty and have that coverage. So it's not like you're not getting the home warranty plan, but again, it's eliminating things from that offer to make a really clean, strong offer to that seller, to make them go, wow, this person, look at this great offer this person wrote me. They don't even want the home warranty. It's still a $500 savings to them. So a nice little thought process or strategy here. And then that rolls right into this. The seller has their other closing costs, including a title fee and their own escrow fee. You as a buyer have your own escrow fee. Typically, escrow fees are, let's say, around $2,000. That could be plus or minus. Depends on the price of the home. On a $700,000 house, it's probably right around that $2,000 mark. Same thing with the title insurance. It's normal for the seller to pay the title insurance and the seller to pay their own escrow fee. What if you offered to pay both of those? Instead of going up in price, you say, I'll pay your title fee, your escrow fee. Let's say that it equates to $4,000 or $5,000. Instead of going $5,000 over, which you were prepared to do, you can do it that way. And then the seller doesn't have to worry about you going over in value and not appraising, right? So a nice little strategy. And yeah, that's it. I ran through 10 of them already. Well, I should have numbered them instead of bullet points. But those are 10 little thought processes that we've been utilizing to get, like I said, our buyers' offers accepted, and it's been working. We've been very fortunate to get buyers' offers accepted in this crazy time, and the only way that is working for us is by employing some of these strategies into how we're writing the offers, having conversations with the listing agent to find out what the seller needs or what they're looking for. So we're writing an informed, not just a strong offer, but an informed offer that we know favors the seller and what they're looking for. Who you hire matters. Not just your agent, but your lender. Who represents you in this transaction is so important in you getting what you want. Oftentimes we'll have buyers approach us and go, I really want to get a deal. Well, this is a tough market to get a deal. If you're competing against at least another 5 offers every time you write an offer, the deal's going to be getting the house. If you're really trying to get something, under asking price in this market, it's going to be a tough market for you. And the rates are at historic low. Even after the market crashed in 07, 08, and we called 2011 pretty much the bottom of the market, we never saw rates under 3%. We've been, we had a buyer last week that locked in at a 2.7. That is a historic low. So taking it, and we're not that far removed from the end of 2018. Rates were up to 5.25. So that's essentially saying rates are almost half as low as they were about a year and a half ago. That is crazy. And the purchase power that affords a buyer, a 1% increase in rates would be, around $30,000 to $40,000 in purchase power. So taking advantage of these historic low rates is going to be, we'll never see this again. Depending on how long this lasts through the pandemic, we will likely never see under 3 again. So taking advantage of that and having an agent that can get you the property again is going to be the deal. So again, I'm Zach McReynolds from the Cherrie and Zach team, NextHome Real Estate Rockstars. If you have any questions or concerns, or you think I'm stupid and you want to yell at me, by all means, leave me a comment or shoot me a text, and I'd love to have an educated debate about anything that we talked about here today. Thank you so much for watching. Smooches. Talk to you later.